What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monty Sports Show. It is Taco Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. I am your host, Monty Perez, aka The Sports Whisperer. You can follow me on social media on Facebook, Monty Perez, on Instagram, Monty Perez 2, and on Twitter, Monty JP231. That is Monty JP231. I want to thank everyone for tuning in last week. We had 35 states across the country. Watch the full Monty Sports Show live on YouTube. Please subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts Sports YouTube channel. We are trending number 3 on YouTube. Trending number 3 on YouTube. What does that mean? What does that mean, Monty? I don't understand. I'm confused. Well, I'll tell you what it means. That means when you type in sports shows under YouTube, you'll see us show up. Usually third, maybe fourth, maybe fifth, but we're definitely always in the top 5 and gaining momentum. I can only do this with your help. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week. So if you like sports and comedy, tell a friend, tell a family member, and tell a coworker. We have the best guests each week on this show, and this is no exception. We have Jack Almere joining us to talk about the Boston Celtics. They are playing much better since the start of the season, still without Marcus Smart. He's one of our favorite guests. And then another favorite guest of ours, Orrie Hicks, going to talk about Dak Prescott's huge contract that he signed with Dallas. He's a Philadelphia Eagles guy, also a Philadelphia 76ers guy. So we will definitely get into that. You know, people ask me all the time, what do I like better? Do I like the NFL? Do I like the NBA? And let me just put it to you this way. The NFL is like someone you date, and that person is fun, but it's just casual. It's just enjoyment. And then the NBA to me is like someone you marry, right? Both good in different situations. I love the NFL. I love college football, but the NBA is my true passion. That's why we do this show on Tuesday nights, try to get NBA as much chat in as possible. And I miss the NBA. Look, it's been a week since the team played. I know the All-Star game was on Sunday, but I miss watching the NBA. I have the NBA League Pass, so I usually get home, watch an early game, and then watch a late West Coast game. All right, we're going to start this show like we always do with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Starting it with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good. Let's start with the good. Look, I told everyone, the NBA All-Star game, with or without a crowd, is the best All-Star game out of all things. Now, look, I know the Home Run Derby is exciting. But to me, the NBA All-Star game is by far the best All-Star game. Steph Curry won the three-point shooting contest. Domantas Sabonis won the skills competition. He was averaging 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists going into the All-Star game. He wasn't an official All-Star member, but when Ben Simmons canceled, he got the nod, and it was so good that he did. And then how about the slam dunk contest? Look, the slam dunk contest was very boring this year. Hats off to Simons for winning it from the Portland Trailblazers. But I thought the three-point shooting contest with Steph Curry taking over and winning it was super exciting. I love to see big men win the skills competition. So, all three events were good, but the slam dunk contest left me something to be desired. But the good thing about the NBA All-Star game, is they raised over $3 million to historically black college. So the NBA not only having a good time, raising money. People want to tell NBA players to shut up and dribble. Thank God they don't, because they raised $3 million. So great job. Great job by them. Yes, someone just said to me, what about the drinking game? Is it still good for Tuesday? Yes, it is. Anytime we say one of these words, might have to add LeBron James. Oh, LeBron James is there. Take a shot. It is Tuesday night, so take a shot. Anytime we add these, say these words, feel free to take a shot. Yes, that goes for Tuesday and Sunday. All right, so that's the good. Let's go to the bad. Listen, I don't understand what the hell's going on. Okay? Now, if I had Russell Wilson as my quarterback, I would do everything in my power to keep him happy. But something happened this week that makes no sense if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan. The Seahawks sent out a newsletter to their entire fan base, season ticket holders. And in that newsletter, they congratulated Pete Carroll. They welcomed the offensive coordinator. They talked about Tyler Lockett. You know who was not mentioned in that newsletter? Russell Wilson. What the hell are you doing, guys? What the hell are you doing, guys? This is crazy. How is Russell Wilson not being involved in the newsletter? He's your best player in the history of the franchise. Let's remember something. Pete Carroll got fired from the Jets, got fired from New England, was 7-9, 7-9 before Russell Wilson came into his life. Pete Carroll was below 500, couldn't really do anything in the NFL. Russell Wilson comes along, and boom, what happens? His whole life has changed. And they send out a newsletter without talking about Russell Wilson? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? All right, that's the good, the bad, and now to the ugly. Look, they're saying that the Chicago Bears are the lead dogs. They're offering Seattle a ton for Russell Wilson. Get it done. Or Deshaun Watson. Get it done. You're the Chicago Bears. You're going up against now Tom Brady. You're going up against Aaron Rodgers. Chicago Bears, get it done. Who cares if you give up 2 number 1 picks for Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson? Bears, stop acting like you're the Green Bay Packers and you're owned by, the townspeople and you're living in the 50s. Go out and make a deal. Go out and make a deal. That's terrible by the Bears. This should have been done already. You're a quarterback away from being a very good team. What are you doing? What are you doing? It's not like you're in a small market. You're in Chicago, damn it. Act like it. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So before I get to what we do every week, we do we break down 2 NBA teams. I'm going to do that for you before we get Jack Almier on. But let's surf the crowd. Yes, I do. I do match. Okay. I want to see this here because I do match my shirt with the banner below. I do it every week. As you can see, my shirt matches this little banner right here. Always, every week. If I wear green, it's green. If I wear yellow, the banner's yellow. So thank you for noticing. Thank you for noticing. Yes, Laura's back. She's been away for a while. Andrea, Gina, I want everyone to comment as much as they can. I normally don't, I don't always get to the comments during the show, but I look at them all week, so I appreciate you guys. No, it's not peach. It is not peach. It is a beautiful Adidas shirt. Thank you very much. Keep the comments coming. We love having them. Keep the comments coming. All right, so each week I break down 2 teams in the NBA. We have fans watching the show all across the country, so I want to give each team maximum amount of time and let you feel like you're part of the thing here, part of the interaction we have, so to speak. All right, so let's start with the Chicago Bulls. Look, the Chicago Bulls are teetering on the 8th, 9th spot. Listen, Zach Levine, all-star. Think about this. Zach Levine is one of the few players who can enter a slam dunk contest, which he did, and enter a three-point contest. He's averaging 28 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, doing a tremendous job for Chicago. Billy Donovan has come over, and he's really, really established a culture there, a culture of playing hard, being consistent. I really think if you look at what Billy Donovan has done early on, you got to give him credit. You have to give him credit. Billy Donovan, head coach of Florida, did some good things in Oklahoma City, and now he's doing some good things with Chicago. Listen, Kobe White averaging 16, 5, and 5, and Lauri Markkanen is averaging 19 and 6, but he's often injured. Like, I got to be honest. If they go out, okay, and they get Andre Drummond, they could be a playoff team. They could be a playoff team if they go out and get Andre Drummond. So, like what Chicago has done, won't be the worst thing in the world if they don't make the playoffs. Won't be the worst thing in the world if they don't make the playoffs, but I've liked what the Chicago Bulls have done, and Billy Donovan deserves a lot of credit. And Zach Levine keeps getting better and better. He came into the league as a jumper, a human highlight reel, and now he's in the three-point contest. So good for him. So that's the first team we do. Now we're going to break down another team that's very intriguing to me, and that is the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are 19 and 18. They are ninth in the Western Conference. The Spurs and Magic are ahead of them, but think about this. Who's chasing the Warriors? The Grizzlies, who made the playoffs last year, and the Pelicans with Zion and Brandon Ingram. Can you imagine a scenario where Steph Curry doesn't make the playoffs? And look, it won't be his fault. He's averaging 29 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. Now you have a big drop-off here. Andrew Wiggins, who's gotten worse every year over the past 3 years, I thought he was going to be a 22, 23-point scorer because everyone's keying on Steph Curry. But he's averaging 17. And Kelly Oubre, who had high hopes, is averaging 15 points. James Wiseman, the young rookie, they picked him first. He's averaging 11 points. They got to play him more. And everyone wants to talk about Draymond Green. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I remember a few weeks ago, people were asking me about Draymond Green. And they said, this was like a few years ago, not a few weeks. And they said, is Draymond Green a Hall of Famer? I'm like, Hall of Famer? He doesn't even average 10 points a game. And he's not an elite rebounder. Okay? Draymond Green is averaging 5 points a game, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds. So it's not like Draymond Green is like a Dennis Rodman. You don't need him to score, especially this year with Klay Thompson out. Look, Steph Curry had a great all-star game, was obviously the best player on the court. Listen, people want to talk about Giannis. All Giannis did was dunk. There was no defense being played, but what Steph did within the three-point contest and then shooting, him and Damian Lillard literally shooting from half court was a great thing to watch. And now, if you're a Golden State Warrior fan, do you say, okay, there's no dominant team in the West. We know the Nets and the East are very tough, okay? But let's face it, the Lakers are, one sprained ankle away by AD and LeBron from not being an elite team, right? So if you're the Warriors, do you want to make the 7th seed or the 8th seed and have your chances? Or is your future better? By not making the playoffs? We know Steph Curry can light it up from anywhere on the court, right? But when you have these two guys who have not really contributed, I mean, Andrew Wiggins, 17 points a game, when the whole defense is going to Steph, Andrew Wiggins should score 20 points just from showing up every night, and he's not. And Kelly Oubre has been a huge disappointment. 15 points a game. And again, I thought Draymond Green would step up. He's averaging 5 points a game. Now, that's fine if you have a healthy Klay Thompson, if you have Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. But it's not fine to average 5 points a game, Draymond, when you have no other scorers besides Steph. So the question that needs to be asked by Golden State Warrior fans is a simple one. Is it better to not make the playoffs, get a top 10 pick, and have another top 10 pick go with Wiseman, a healthy Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry next year? Or do you take your chances with the 7th seed and hope that Steph Curry can carry them to the finals like Allen Iverson did back in the day, like LeBron James did with Cleveland? For my money, if I'm a Golden State Warrior fan, I say don't make the playoffs. They don't need experience. They have it with Draymond Green and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Get healthy, rest your players. The best thing for the Warriors would be to not make the playoffs. Now, if all of a sudden the Warriors go out and get Drummond and they start adding pieces, then of course you do the right thing. You're aggressive and you want to make the playoffs. But as constituted, this roster is not good enough to get past the LA Clippers or the LA Lakers or even the Denver Nuggets, to be honest. Even the Denver Nuggets. And that's what you have it every week. I break down 2 NBA teams in the league. Next week, we'll have 2 more. We're going to bring on our good friend, Jack Almier. He's a sports executive producer, host of the Duck Bout Parade podcast, New England Emmy Award winner. Jack, thanks so much for joining us. Always love having you on.
Hey, Monte, how are you? Great to be here.
Jack, talk about that podcast. How did you come up with that name, first and foremost?
Well, we have our champions here in Boston ride down the street in duck boats when we bring home a championship. So, Duck Boat Parade podcast. That's what it's all about. It's bringing home the rings in Boston.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I was hoping maybe you were like me and loyal to the Oregon Ducks here.
Got the floating helmet still back there. I always love that. I gotta get one of
Yeah,
those.
no, a friend of mine gave me that for my birthday. What a great up. All right, Jack, want to start off before we get to the questions? Talk about the All-Star game and how you thought Brown and Jason Tatum played. No one cares about my high school, but I'm gonna share a story. I
Yeah.
tried out for this AAU team, and going into my senior year, we lost to this team 3 times.
Mhm.
Woodridge, and there was a guard, and I cut out his picture. I would lift, I would work out, and I played off against him in AAU, and I dominated, and I got so much confidence. I don't think Jason Tatum needs any more confidence, but Brown showing up and playing as well as he did against the best of the best. Am I overthinking that?
No, and I think it was a big All-Star game for Jaylen Brown, not only being his first one, but also taking place in his hometown. So I think that was a big deal for him. And, he talked about the knee that was sort of bugging him going into the All-Star game. And a lot of pundits here were wondering, is he going to play in that All-Star game or is he going to take it off? And I think that the fact that it was in his hometown really kind of made that decision for him. He was going to play, decided to take off the dunk contest and do something a little less strenuous with the three-point contest instead. But I do think it was a good night for Jaylen Brown to get out there and play with the best of the best. And like you said, the All-Star game, I think, really is an opportunity for these guys to kind of be at the cool kids table, more or less, in that, they are the people who are kind of making the decisions in the league. It's a very player-driven league, the NBA. So when you get your seat at the table and coming to the All-Star game, I think it's a big deal for any player.
I took this picture because it's Brown going against Tatum, and as you could see, the players were just smiling because they were going one-on-one. You see Bradley Beal there smiling. You see
Oh, yeah.
Jason Tatum smiling. I mean, listen, Team Durant got their butt kicked, but it looked
Mhm.
like the Celtics guys really had a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see future Celtic Bradley Beal there really enjoying it in the background. Absolutely.
Oh,
He was a big fan
listen,
of that.
if they go out and get Bradley Beal, that would be all right. Let's talk about the Celtics because they played much better. I want you to give a grade for every one of these players: Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, Daniel Tice, these Tristan Thompson, Semi Ojeleye, my boy Peyton Pritchard, and Robert Williams. Walk us through this and tell me why they're playing so good all of a sudden after you get to those grades.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's start with Kemba Walker because I think he really is the reason they're playing so well right now. I'm going to have to give him an incomplete grade for a season because really he's coming together right now. We're seeing him really helping get this win streak started with those 32 points against Indiana to get it started. Kept it rolling with 3 straight games of 15 or more points during Boston's subsequent win streak. He had 25 points and a 5-point win over the Clippers, where Tatum and Brown weren't really doing anything. He's been, really great over this stretch. And prior to this win streak, Kemba was shooting one of the lowest field goal percentages of his career since his rookie season. And now he's got that all the way back up to a 44% clip over these last 4 games, shooting 43 from behind the arc. So he's really starting to get together, and that quickness that we talked about last time, Monty, with Kemba Walker is really starting to come back, and that's a huge part of his game. He's able to create plays now for others and also get to the basket.
Jack, I give you all the credit in the world because I have Kemba Walker on my fantasy basketball team, and I was ready to trade him. And you said last time you were on the show, you're like, Monty, he just needs to get healthy. His game is not off. He just needs to get back in shape and in healthy. So you were right on with that. Okay, so you give him an incomplete because injuries. Talk about Brown and Tatum. I assume an A and an A, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give Jaylen the A, and I'll give JT the A minus. I think had great All-Star seasons so far, but Tatum really, I think, still needs to get over that COVID hump. Ever since he missed time with that ailment, it's really affected him. And I mean, you can't blame him. It seems like he gets winded easier. He's not showing up as much in the final quarters of games, so he really needs to find his legs. And hopefully, this All-Star break gives him the chance to do that. But for
And
Jaylen Brown.
he's been open and honest about that, right? He said
Yeah.
it has affected him.
Yeah, he's told the media, look, this is something that's affecting me. This is something that's bothering me. And, you can't fault him for that. And so maybe give him some more time to, like Kemba, get those legs back underneath him. But for Jaylen Brown, he's really done a good job of holding down the fort during those stretches where we don't have Tatum, putting up a career high 24 points per game, and then the first All-Star appearance of his career. So Jaylen Brown has to get the A.
Okay, I wanted them to keep my boy Enes Kanter. You said no with Daniel Tice and Tristan Thompson. They'd be more than adequate. So how do you feel about those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's still going to be addition at the big man rotation. We'll get to that, I think, a little bit later. But Daniel Tice is just having a career year. He's shooting 66% from the field, and that's been one of the top percentages in the league so far. So he's doing a really great job of converting his buckets, also stepping out behind the arc. We talked about last time his improvement there, shooting almost double the amount of attempts he took last season, while also pushing that average up nearly 30 points. So he's doing great for them, but we talk about the war on Tice all the time in Boston. He picks up a lot of ticky-tack fouls, and you got to realize at some point who you are. And I think that sometimes they're on the line with Tice, but they're just never going to go that way. He's not somebody who has that respect of officials yet.
Okay, and then obviously the three big bench guys. You got Semi Ojeleye, Peyton Pritchard, Robert Williams. I've seen Robert Williams make huge impacts in games, keeping the ball alive, offensive rebounds. He's been a pleasant surprise. He's doing things that a Tristan Thompson would do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's looking so much more athletic than any other big on this Boston roster, and that's really been huge for them. His ability to get up, play over the rim. I mean, he's catching balls like Randy Moss as he's throwing them in with one hand behind his back. I mean, it's really impressive to watch. So I've been a big fan of Robert Williams and what he's brought to that bench scoring. They really needed somebody to come and be a spark plug there, and so Peyton Pritchard, Robert Williams are really the driving forces there. When we talk about Semi Ojeleye, though, I'd really like to see him start to separate himself a little bit more from Grant Williams. I think the Celtics have two redundant players there and kind of undersized bigs who sort of do a 3-and-D, both of them at around 5 points per game. And I think Semi, as the older guy, needs to become sort of the leader there as a defensive stalwart off the bench.
Now, Peyton Pritchard going into camp, no one expected him to play. Right? I mean, this is why they signed their backup, but he's just outplayed him, right? Is it simple as that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think he has 100% outplayed Jeff Teague. That's,
Are you shocked at how bad Jeff Teague has been?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought that Jeff Teague was going to have a better season. And I think, he's had his moments here and there, but, really they needed somebody who I think could consistently score for them off the bench. And I don't think that was Jeff Teague's game these days. The scoring just isn't there for Teague anymore. And so for Pritchard to come in there and be able to kind of facilitate an offense, especially when they were missing Kemba early on, and even as far as, a couple of weeks ago when Kemba wasn't 100% there, Peyton Pritchard has really been a good force for them. Not even their first pick in this draft, but has come on and been one of their major contributors this season.
Okay, so we saw the Nets just picked up Blake Griffin. There's talk about them going out and getting Drummond or the Lakers getting Drummond. What worries about you about certain teams in the East like Philadelphia, Milwaukee? What do the Celtics need to do here?
Well, that whole picture you put up there just then, that concerns me right there. Those three guys, that's what concerns me.
Listen, I could go on the court with them with these three guys, and they're still going to score 100 points.
Exactly. I mean, like we talked about before, I mean, on paper, that's probably the best scoring big three, the most talented scoring big three we've seen ever. Absolutely. Top to bottom between Durant, Irving, Harden. I mean, all of them across the board. So I worry about them. I worry about Milwaukee. They have a Celtic killer in Chris Middleton who always seems to light them up from behind the arc. I think the C's match up good against a team like the 76ers where Ben Simmons, one-dimensional. I think that Brad Stevens really takes advantage of that. So, I look at Milwaukee and Brooklyn. Those are the two teams that you got to worry about. And I think you need one more move to be able to be competitive with them come playoffs.
Yeah, no, they've played a lot better, started the season slow, but let's talk about Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge is known as super aggressive. He's super aggressive. I cannot envision with what the Nets are doing, I cannot envision Danny Ainge standing pat. So where are they going to go, and who's a trading piece that they could trade to get quality back?
Yeah, we like to call him Trader Danny. We're going to see what he has up his sleeve. I mean, I think the narrative has kind of been that people are anxious about trading with Danny because they don't want to come out looking as badly as some of the other general managers
Yeah,
have in the Brooklyn
exactly.
Nets trade and all those other deals that Danny has won. So we haven't really seen a deal from him in a while that has kind of moved the needle all that much. But I think, with the largest TPE in NBA history, you have to go out there and you have to go do something. So I think Danny, he's talked about targeting a big who can shoot and defend. I think that's going to be something that they look to add going forward.
We're talking with Jack Almy here on the Full Monty Sports Show live on YouTube. For those of you who don't know, a few years ago, it was the most amazing. Danny Ainge traded Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce to the Nets for 3 first-round picks. The Nets, with that trade, won 1 playoff series, and then they lost to Miami. And then Paul Pierce left, and the following year, Kevin Garnett. So basically, Danny Ainge traded to the Nets 2 players who were there for a year and a half tops, and they won 1 playoff series, and then they lost to the Miami Heat, and he got 3 draft picks in return.
Absolutely. And he swindled a borderline MVP season out of Phoenix by trading for Isaiah Thomas
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
Suns. So, I
yeah.
mean,
I
he
mean,
had a great run there in those early kind of 2014 through 2016 was a great time for Danny. And now I think he needs to he's got the core together. He's got to add one more piece here to put them over the hump.
so you don't think they'll aggressively go after Drummond because it'll cost too much?
Yeah, and I don't think Drummond fits their game. I think the shooting part of what Danny's looking for in that big man is really important, and that's not an Andre Drummond. That's maybe a Nikola Vucevic, who I would love. I don't think that that's going to happen, but that I think should be the dream is like a Vooch or a Harrison Barnes. I also like Larry Nance Jr. as somebody who is aggressive rebounding, but can also kind of give you some range there. Aaron Gordon, another guy from the Magic, depending on how Orlando season goes, is another player that you could target who, while Gordon's a little shaky from behind the arc, he's actually having one of his best season shooting back there. So I think it's going to end up being a big man who can pull up from behind the arc, but also give you some rebounding and defense.
You bring up a great point. Harrison Barnes has been in no man's land. I watch Sacramento almost every time they're on if the Lakers aren't on. And one of the reasons I watch is because Marvin Bagley, a lot of people don't know about him from Duke, but over the last 15 games, he's been averaging like 19 and 9. And I don't and they get frustrated with him because he was inconsistent early on in the year. But Sacramento I think they're in 13th place. They're 14 and 22. I don't think they're going to catch anybody. They should clean house and just rebuild. If you could get a Marvin Bagley, a stretch four like that, I mean, wow, I would do it in a heartbeat. And you mentioned Harrison Barnes, but the biggest concern, like you say, is a big. Um, I don't see Orlando giving up Vucevic without a boatload. They should do something. I wrote an article last week for Nuts and Bolts Sports. I said the Orlando Magic are the most boring team I've ever. They made the playoffs twice as the eighth seed, but they're so boring to watch.
Here's the thing I would do, and this is just me completely spitballing off the brain. I know the numbers need to work, but if you could move Time Lord and some other packages, take Robert Williams, capitalize on the momentum he has, and maybe interest in Orlando in his future, I would do that swap right there and try to kind of capitalize on the great run that Robert Williams has had. But, again, you need those numbers to match up. So I don't know what else you would need to add in order to make that work. But that would be a move in order to get a guy like Vooch, who I really think could put you over the hump, averaging 25 points per game, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks. I mean, just everything you need, 41% behind the arc. So that's a player that I think would really make a difference in Boston. And if they have an opportunity to get him, they should be aggressive about it.
I would seriously, if I'm the Lakers, I don't know how you feel about this, but I would go after JaVale McGee. I mean, the Cavs aren't going to do anything. He played great with the Lakers in limited minutes. He'll play 10 minutes. He'll get you 6 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 4 points. Would you look for, and he's so long defensively. Would that someone who will fit or no?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that Brad, he does like players who can switch. And so that's all that he's looking for. And so with a McGee, I think you can play multiple positions there. Ultimately, you definitely wonder about, all the appearances he's made on Shaq and the Fool. Will that come back at some point, especially in a locker room like Boston, where Tatum and Brown are kind of running the show, and they're not the oldest guys in the league by far. They're kind of on the younger side. So do they have the presence to keep a guy like McGee in check? I think, his time with LeBron has sort of calmed him down, but that's something I would wonder about if you brought in a JaVale McGee.
Listen, you talk about Rajon Rondo, you talk about Dwight Howard, you talk about JaVale McGee, who were cancers in the locker room. They were all model citizens. I mean, the first week of the bubble, Dwight Howard went out. LeBron nixed that right away and said, we're not having this. So everyone is in check with LeBron. But I think you're right. When those veteran players have a chance, you see Blake Griffin going to Brooklyn. When they have a chance to win, you see Carmelo in Portland. Mm-hmm. They understand their role. And Carmelo was a cancer. I saw him in New York. Carmelo's been a model citizen. So your concerns with JaVale McGee are justified. But I think once you win or you want to win, you kind of, fall into what the rest of the locker room's doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you win, everybody accepts their roles. So it works for like a Blake Griffin if he's coming off the bench, but he might get a ring for it. If you're JaVale McGee and you're coming off the bench and the Celtics are on a 3-game losing streak that just dropped one of the Wizards and the Hawks, maybe he's putting up 15 shots the next game that, 6 of them are head scratchers. So that's the kind of thing that I would be concerned about, is people trying to do too much if it's not going their way. When you bring in somebody who's an older veteran to this team, you have to be sure that Tatum and Brown are ready to step up and lead this team going forward.
That's why I love Brad Stevens. No matter what guy is on the court, they know their role. They know their role. So speaking of Brad Stevens, okay, this is his 7th year, made it to the Eastern Conference Final 3 times. There's rumors, and I don't know if it's true because I'm not in Boston, but I always try to listen when I have a guest on like yourself, to listen to local podcasts. There are rumors that there might be a little rift between these two guys. I don't think there is, but if Brad Stevens doesn't get to the NBA Finals, are people starting to question him? Because I think he's a hell of a coach, but you got to win.
Yeah, I mean, I look around the NBA right now. I don't see anybody who I would rather have as the head coach of the Boston Celtics. I think Brad is one of the best. I think he's a smart mind. He's constantly putting players in position to succeed. We've seen a number of guys from Kelly Olynyk to Evan Turner have great career years with Brad Stevens and then go elsewhere with big contracts and really not live up to them. That's what Brad Stevens does, is he maximizes the abilities of his players, and that's what a good coach does. So I think that the rumblings you're hearing are from a loud minority. I don't think that, totally getting rid of and cleaning house is going to be what happens. We'll see how it all shakes out when Boston kind of gets into the playoffs. If it's a first round exit, you might look at changing the culture. But I really just think that it either needs to be a veteran or maybe another assistant coach. I'm on the Kevin Garnett assistant coach train. I know he doesn't need that at all, but if there is any interest whatsoever, I mean, somebody like that, if you could bring in a former player, even like a Sam Cassell, like to come in and just light a fire into these guys. I love the move to bring in Evan Turner, another Brad Stevens guy, to help motivate these players. And so I think maybe another voice in the locker room might be necessary at some point, but Brad Stevens should be the head coach of the Boston Celtics going forward.
No, I agree with you. Win or lose, I think he's done a tremendous job. All right, let's move to the Boston Red Sox. You know that I went off on a rant about how they keep selling guys, and, this is the Red Sox. They're like the Yankees, spend. What are you hearing about spring training so far?
Well, there's kind of been a burst of optimism all of a sudden, and it really kind of comes on the heels of not feeling like we got anything done all that much in the offseason, and the Andrew Benintendi trade was kind of looked at as more or less a wash. If anything, maybe you got a player that is going to be as good as Benintendi, but probably not. So, but coming into this spring training, everybody feels like there's a new air, and we're excited about the season. I don't know how long that will ultimately last. I definitely think that some of this is just, on to the next year. It's going to be fun, but I look at this lineup with Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, and Alex Verdugo. That's a lineup that can score runs. Rafael Devers as well. I tend to think that the JD Martinez hitting 212 last season after 330 and 304 the year before, and nearly 100 home runs between those two seasons. Like, I think you're going to get a different JD Martinez this season. And so, that's a great offense. We'll see if the defense and the pitching can hold up as well.
So, are you expecting, 80, 500 baseball? Are you expecting, hey, it's a rebuilding season, we'll take what we'll get?
I think that they can definitely get to 500 baseball and maybe even win a few more games over that. I don't think that they'll be in contention for a wild card spot, but I definitely think that they have the offense to maybe make a surprise run at it. Ultimately, as you come into this season, I think they're going to be looking at, okay, where do we go with our second base? Where do we go in the outfield? They definitely need one more outfielder at this point. So who's that going to be? I think it's going to be a year of decision making, right? If they add a veteran or two this season, maybe get some help in the bullpen, then all of a sudden this is a team that looks like it can maybe compete. I mean, Devers, Martinez, Bogarts. I mean, that's Chris Sale. That's your core right there that won a World Series a couple of years ago. So you still have some good players in place. You have to figure out, though, what you're going to do with that team, what you're going to do with that roster.
Okay, Jack, before we let you go, first I want to thank you for coming on. Love having you on, and you could tell us about your podcast. I'm just going to bring on Orrie Hicks here because, you could just look at his background and the rivalry here. Jack, I want you to walk me through this first, then we'll get to Orrie Hicks here. Greatest moment in Celtic Sixer. What was your best? This is a terrible moment. You have Charles Barkley hurling at Larry, holding Larry Bird. You have Dr. J throw a punch and he missed. But talk about the rivalry between the Celtics and the Sixers, because I think it's coming back.
Oh, it absolutely is coming back, and it's been a lot of fun to watch. I mean, these are two just historically great franchises, and so it's been a lot of fun to see them go at each other, from Joel Embiid getting into Morris's face while he's flashing him the 3-0 to the confetti that they dropped when they didn't even win a game. I mean, it's just been a whole lot of fun to watch these two teams go at it. But, in all seriousness, credit to Philadelphia really building over, this last decade to become one of the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference.
Do you have a special memory between these two cities, something that stood out, maybe a memory that was like, oh man, it was so satisfying?
Ooh, well, satisfying, has to be, the sweeps. I do remember being in a bar with some Philly friends, though, during the Eagles Patriots Super Bowl, and they, one of the greatest experiences for them, one of the worst nights for me. So I'll give you that one. That was a bummer of a night, but credit to Philly, they pulled out.
Orrie, what's your greatest memory of the rivalry? Was it obviously the Eagles over the Patriots?
Mm-hmm. Well, I got 3 actually.
Okay, give them to me.
Yeah.
All right. So number 1, obviously Eagles over the Patriots. Number 2, I'm older now. When we won Game 7 in the Boston Garden, that was huge. Nobody can win a Game 7 in the Boston Garden. We did it. Dr. J did it. In fact, Dr. J was the only one that had won a Game 7 in Boston and sweep the Lakers. Nobody else can ever say that. And number 3 is when Sandeo 3 knocked the hell out of Danny Ainge. Go YouTube that.
Yeah,
look that one up.
Danny Ainge was literally wobbling when Sandeo 3 punched him. I remember that. That was great. It's funny because growing up, that was like the rivalry. And I always say this: there were so many. Like everyone knows, going back with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, but Dennis Johnson was the key right there. I mean, it was just the glue that held them together. And he was so underrated, but I loved Hersey Hawkins as Hersey. What was that?
Andrew Toney?
Yeah, Andrew Toney.
Boston Strangler.
Yes. And then they drafted Hersey Hawkins, and I thought Hersey Hawkins was going to be the next Andrew Toney, and he never was. And Andrew Toney was great for 4 years, and then what happened? He had hamstring issues?
His ankles.
Andrew Toney was Mr. Offense. Could shoot the 3, can get to the rim. He was so good for those Sixer teams.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, the Boston Strangler. I mean, Andrew Toney would come in there and just light it up. To me, he was a microwave before Vinny Johnson. So,
yeah. And Jack, finally, how can we follow you? How can we support you? Love having you on, man.
Thank you so much. I'm on Twitter at Jack_Roundler. Take a look at the podcast at Duck Boat Parade on Twitter and Instagram. We'll have a new episode coming out this Friday, talking to Boston sports athletes, going through their careers and their time in the city, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely hop on and join us.
All right. Thanks so much for having you. Thanks so much for coming on. Always love having you to talk Boston sports. We'll see you down the road.
Absolutely. See you guys. Nice
Thanks so
talking to you.
much. That was awesome. I love putting that Philadelphia Boston rivalry. Okay, let's get right to it, Orrie. What happened at the All-Star game with these two guys? They didn't play.
Yeah.
What's going on? What's the health situation with them?
Yeah. So what was reported was that that their personal barbers, he or she tested positive for the coronavirus, and so they found out about it, and they decided to hold them, make sure that they did not play. I believe they did travel to Atlanta, but they did not interact with anyone, and I believe they flew back, like the next day. And what I'm hearing about today is that Joel Embiid is going to miss one game and Ben Simmons probably 2 games. So the first game is against Chicago, and then they got a back-to-back against Washington on Friday.
So Embiid's going to miss.
That's what we're hearing. Embiid's going to miss 1. Ben Simmons is going to miss 2. That's what we're hearing as of right now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Listen, let's go back to my opening point, because there were times when this guy, I'm looking at his stats right now. I mean, Hersey Hawkins, 22, 19, 20, 18 points. He was an absolute stud.
Yeah. I remember he was drafted out of Bradley. And I'm
yes,
like,
out of Bradley, yeah.
I'm like, who is this kid? And it was crazy because we had Hersey Hawkins, we had Johnny Dawkins. Was a Hawkins and Dawkins.
Yeah, Johnny Dawkins out of Duke. But so right. I'm not exaggerating when I say her, because I'm looking at his stats right now. He had a 4-year run where it was 18, 22, 19. He was pretty damn good.
He was good. He could shoot the ball. I don't know why. It just never happened for us. Probably because we always ran into Michael Jordan. He always shut us down.
Yeah.
So, and Charles Barkley, try to do his best. But yeah, it's a shame. I mean, obviously he was a good pick. You needed somebody to shoot the ball, and like you said, the next replacement of a great shooter like Andrew Toney, and it just didn't work out for us.
Just didn't work out. No.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this, because dollar bills, y'all. Okay. Talk to me. Dak Prescott, 4-year, $160 million. Here's the problem I have, and then I'll let you say whatever you want. Mm-hmm. The Dallas Cowboys, when they signed Ezekiel Elliott, they made him the highest paid running back. When they signed Amari Cooper, they made him the highest paid running back. When they signed Dak Prescott, highest paid quarterback. And those guys aren't even in the top 5 in their position right now. Either one of them. All
right.
3 of them.
You're right.
So talk about this. Do you like it? Are you happy? Are you like, what the hell is Jerry Jones doing?
As an Eagle fan, we should love it. I mean, not saying much about our team right now, but just, trolling the Cowboys. I love it. I love it because, you're tying up all this money into Dak, and that means you're going to lose key pieces. You might lose a Michael Gallup. You might lose some other key pieces that you really need to build around. And what you're saying is, Dak, okay, you're the guy. We're putting all the money in you, so it doesn't matter what the roster looks like. If Zeke falls off, if Cooper falls off, obviously you good. You got CD, so CD's good. You got him, but not really sure about Blake Jarwin on the tight end. Offensive line, y'all need a lot of help. Cowboys fans, y'all need a lot of help on that offensive line.
Forget about the offense for a second. The defense is atrocious.
I was about to say that too. The defense, y'all need a lot of help on that defense. You know what I mean? So your linebackers, they don't look as good as they used to be when they signed their contracts with Van Der Esch and my man out of Notre Dame, Jalen Smith. Right. They don't look the same. So, we'll see what happens. As far as Dak, personally, man, good for him. He got paid. Good for him.
Good for him. Listen, good for him. But listen, again, when they signed Ezekiel Elliott, they made him the highest paid running back. He's not a top 5 running back. His stats have gone. Amari Cooper disappeared in 3 or 4 games last year. Dak's coming off an injury. Sometimes Jerry Jones, being a businessman, just wants to make headlines.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll see what happens. I think they had to do it. He had him over a barrel. You know what I mean? They were not going to let him go, and
they couldn't franchise him again because he might sit out.
Yeah, so they should have signed him a long time ago. They should have did it years ago. Probably around the time that we signed Carson Wentz or the Rams signed Goff and whatnot. They should have just came to an agreement then. So.
But here's the thing. Dak got everything he wanted. He got a no trade clause. He got all the money he could want. Dak won. Jerry Jones is supposed to be this great deal maker. In a way, he's a lot like Donald Trump. They just steamroll him.
Yeah,
He just got steamrolled.
he did. He did. But here's the most important thing. Okay, Dak, you got your money. So that means according to being paid, you're supposed to be number 2 to Patrick Mahomes. That means you're supposed to be in running for MVPs. You're supposed to be winning playoff games, Super Bowls. We know the Cowboys have not get to an NFC Championship game since 1995, since last century. So with that money, that's pressure on him. 4 years, Cowboys, y'all better get to the NFC Championship game this year. And within that 4-year contract, you better win a Super Bowl, or it's a failure, in my opinion.
Listen, I'll give you stats right now. Dak Prescott 1-8 against playoff teams in his last 9, 32-28. That's his record in the last 4 or 5 years, 32-28. So he's 4 games above 500, but he's 1-8 against playoff teams. We all talk about Kirk Cousins, who can't win the big game. 1-8 in his last 9 against playoff teams.
Right, and we, this is his first injury, so we don't know. Here's the thing: I know one thing. Once you get hurt, you're probably gonna get hurt again. You know what I mean? So what's that leg going to look like? He really wasn't that fast anyway, but he's very powerful. Will he be hesitant? Will he protect the knee more? Will he play a little, or maybe play more carefree since he got paid and whatnot? But you never know. I just think that giving him all that money, they're going to lose key players. So they're going to have to depend on young players, cheap players. Hopefully those guys can, play the role. And, the division is trash. So
division's terrible. Division's terrible. Division's terrible. All right, listen, I take pride in my background. I helped build this, as you could see. I got the plan. I got the ducks. But I think Laura's right about this. I mean, your background, that Eagles, is that a 1-piece or a 2-piece with the Eagles banner and the championship picture there? Is that 1-piece or 2-piece?
It's a 2-piece. It's a 2-piece. So this is just a little picture right there.
And that's Nick Foles and who else is on that?
Aguilar.
Oh, okay. I always remember the guy who was catching babies out of a window, and they interviewed him, and he's saving lives from a burning fire, and he goes, and I didn't drop any of them, not like Nelson Aguilar.
Right. So, unlike Aguilar. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
No, go ahead. That's a beautiful thing, man.
I was going to say 6 other players on here. We got Jenkins and Jeffrey and Ertz and Darby and, of course, Aguilar. So,
that's
it's
awesome.
A little nice montage.
Great background. Okay, what are they going to do with the 6th pick? I'm hearing they may go after Jerry Jeudy. I'm hearing that they may draft another quarterback. Tell me they're not doing that.
No, apparently. So what came out yesterday was that Jeffrey Lurie said, no, we're going to build around Jalen Hurts. Let's give this kid a chance. So, we want to focus on building around him. Now, here's the thing. Is it a smokescreen? Are they just saying that to throw people off? You know what I mean? It's put out there. So sometimes you can't trust stuff that teams say sometimes because they put it out there to try to, fake you out and whatnot. But with this one, I guess I can buy that. I say, Jamar Chase, if Chase is around, or the kid out of Philly, Kyle Pitts, that went to Florida, if he's around.
Would you take Chase as the number 1 receiver off the board, or would you go with Alabama's Devontae Smith?
Oh, Devontae Smith.
Right, me too.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest need? It's obviously team speed on offense, right?
Man, we need everything, in my opinion.
So that's my next question. Why not trade down and get 2 or 3 first-round picks for that 6th pick?
That's a possibility too, but also there may be some other places you can trade. Now, what's being reported is that Zach Ertz is possibly on the trading block, as well as Brandon Brooks, the great offensive guard. He's been hurt a couple of years, so maybe you can use those as other picks to trade them to get some picks back, so then now you can really build your team. I think here's the thing. We had a bad season, so I think I want to stick with that 6th pick and get the best possible player, because hopefully that person that's picked at 6 is a superstar, a perennial Pro Bowl player, and maybe a future Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? So I think you need that guy. You need to have a star player, whatever it is, that wide receiver or tight end or even offensive lineman. I don't know if the top offensive linemen are going in the top 5 or top 10 this year. The kid out of Alabama is pretty good. So
the kid Sewell from Oregon, he sat out this year, is an absolute stud. People really dig. They're saying you're so Philly, they want a cheesesteak right now. And yes, Orrie, that is a Dr. J jersey, right? That Sixer jersey right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we got it.
Is that Howard behind you?
Yep. We got a little Ryan Howard action going on there. We got a little
AI. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
You come
Very
here,
nice.
you come to the cave, you get it,
I love how Orrie gets complimented and I get this. Is that shirt peach? Yeah, it's a peach shirt. Okay. So I mean, I'm the only host in America that gets ridiculed every time I'm on the air. All the
That's all
time.
right.
By the fans. By the fans, no less.
That's all
So
good. That's all good.
so you want a wide receiver with the sixth pick then?
Well, I want the best player. Like I said, I'll take the tight end Kyle Pitts from Philly that went to Florida. If he's on the board, I would take him too. I know some people disagree with that. They say if Chase is on the board, you take Chase. But I just a star player because I think those guys Chase, maybe even Waddle, Smith, Pitts. I think those guys are
Right, but
game
Orrie,
changers.
my argument with is Pitts doesn't have elite speed. Don't you
Mm-hmm.
want a game breaker?
Well, that's why they drafted Jalen Reagor last year.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
what they
Right.
telling me that he's the
Right.
guy. He's you know what I mean. So okay, so now if we lose, especially if we lose Ertz and Goddard's been hurt a couple of years, you get that stud tight end. Now you run they run well. The old coach used to a lot of run around 12 personnel with the 2 tight end set and whatnot. But I think I'll probably go Chase. Like if that guy's on the board, I just don't know how you don't take him. I think you do.
By the way, they picked him with the 21st pick last year, right? Jalen Reagor.
Yes.
In my mock draft, I had him, and I only got 3 right. That was the one I got right. I picked Jalen Reagor in my Nuts and Bolts Sports article to go to Philly because I watched film on that. Yeah, I picked it. Listen, even a blind squirrel, that's a nut. All right, let's move to the Sixers again. Now, I don't like hearing this stuff because I was just talking to Jack about the Celtics, and you could see right here how much Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum like each other. Smiling at the All-Star game, guarding one another, general chemistry. There was a report that came out that said Ben Simmons would not get on a private plane with Joel Embiid, that these guys still don't get along. Listen, we know that for years there were certain players that didn't get along and they won titles. Shaq and Kobe didn't really like each other after the first title. What is the problem with these two guys getting along? And is it a big deal?
I don't think it's a big deal. I don't. Now, years ago, I've seen them out together. Like I've seen them literally out in the streets in Philadelphia a long time ago, out together. You know what I mean? So I'm not really hearing that they don't like each other. It's funny because I've heard that more from regional or national reporters out there, but never really locally. I don't think so. I'm thinking that as far as why they flew back separate, is they didn't want to really take any chances, with COVID or anything like that. So I think it was more about that. Let's not take any chances. We got these private planes. You fly back separate, I'll fly back separate, and we'll keep it moving. But no, and in fact, Joel Embiid, when I see them on the court, it looks like they have a lot of fun together. Joel Embiid is a very fun guy. And Ben Simmons more stoic and whatnot, but I've seen Ben Simmons smile more. He's doing.
Is that Doc Rivers?
I think maybe you get to a certain age, you just sort of open up a little bit. You know what I mean? I think Doc Rivers has a lot to do with it. Obviously, winning. Well, I shouldn't say winning because they pretty much have always won regular season games. I think Doc. Yeah, listen. Anything that Doc touches seems to be good, so I will give him some credit in that. But I think they're just having I think they're having a lot of fun together. On the court. Off the court,
you're not buying there's animosity between them.
I'm not buying it because to me, it's not like jealousy or anything like that. Everybody knows Joel Embiid is MVP, and everybody knows that Simmons is probably Defensive Player of the Year. Although Embiid did say he won the Defensive Player of the Year award. So there could be some competition about that,
Oh yeah, I mean? Okay. So many people don't know this, but I'm gonna put this is old school. Okay, it was Jamal Mashburn, Jason Kidd, and Jimmy Jackson were all on the Mavericks. And one night, Jason Kidd didn't want to go out with Tony Braxton, so Jimmy Jackson, I think, took her out, and then Jamal Mashburn took them out. So these 3 great, talented players who were young and on the rise hated each other because of one Tony Braxton. So you're saying this has nothing to do with any extracurricular activities with women?
Not that anything I've heard of. Anything I've heard of. Now that's not saying it's not true. I haven't heard anything like that. You know what I mean?
But you remember this story, right?
But minute. So it's funny. The minute you put that up there, that's the first thing I thought it was Tony Braxton. As soon as you said that, I was like, Tony Braxton. That's what I think of when I see those 3.
Tony Braxton ruined the Dallas Mavericks. Okay. So I said this to Jack, and I'm glad I have you on because these three guys worry me. They just got Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin doesn't have to score 20 points. He can play 15 minutes, score 10, grab 4 rebounds, set some huge screens. What worries you the most in the East?
Well, obviously Brooklyn. Obviously they, worry me the most. Kevin Durant is, if he's not the best player in the NBA, he's second best. He's up there. It's important for the Sixers to get that number 1 seed because you don't want to fall to the 2 or the 3 seed because you don't have to play Milwaukee. You know what I mean? So it's very important to, avoid Milwaukee in the semifinals and whatnot. You know what I mean? So, but Milwaukee's obviously a concern. I think if somehow the Sixers ended up playing Boston, I think now they're mentally over that hump.
I think they are too.
I think they are now. Like I really do. You know what I mean? So I'm not really worried about Boston. Miami, they're scrappy and whatnot, but I think the Sixers could handle them. If they, matched up against somebody like an Atlanta or somebody like that, those teams could win especially Atlanta could win a game, especially the way they shoot. But I don't see any of those teams beating the Sixers 4 times. Toronto's tough. Toronto's always tough, and they always play the Sixers tough.
Oh, they always play Joel Embiid tough.
Always.
I think Joel Embiid overcame a little hurdle here when he went up against Utah last week, and he dropped 40 against Defensive Player of the Year Rudy Gobert. So Joel Embiid's not playing around anymore.
He's not. He is not playing around. He is all about it. He is, to me, the clear cut MVP. I know I'm probably a little biased and whatnot.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I had that out like 3 weeks ago. I had him as number 1. A lot of people aren't talking about certain players who should be in the MVP. I think Chris Paul, what he's done with Phoenix, and if you take what Chris Paul did last year with Oklahoma City, and then now what he's done with Phoenix, he's an alternate leader. I'm a huge LeBron guy, but I don't think LeBron should get the MVP. I think it's Joel Embiid number 1. If Luka could get in the top 4 or 5 seed in the West, Luka Doncic. Although I was really disappointed because I watched the All-Star game. This is the second year in a row where Luka does it. It's almost like he's like in awe of those guys. Like, I wish he had the same mentality. Say whatever you want about LeBron James. His team has won 4 straight All-Star games, Team LeBron. But Luka just, but I think he's the number 2 in the MVP. And you think Defensive Player of the Year is Ben Simmons? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think you got Ben and Joel. They're in the top 2, but I would give it to Ben. I would edge out Ben because Ben can guard. He guards all 5. But a lot of times when Joel Embiid is sitting down in that paint and he's moving around, I mean, and the way he reacts to stuff. There was a play where I want to say Mitchell came to the hole. He tried to throw it up, and Embiid quickly deflected the ball out of Gobert. Yeah. And then the ball came back, and then he came back again and made like a great rebound and whatnot. I mean, the way he's playing defense is amazing. But I would give it right now. I'm gonna give it to Ben Simmons just because he guards from 1 to 5.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Ben Simmons, and yes, I did say LeBron James. So you know what that means. Cheers, everyone. There's a little drinking game. Okay, so they're 24 and 12. The Nets are 24 and 13. You talked about it earlier. I think it's a must. I don't think it's important to the Nets, and I think the second half of the season he's going to rest those guys. But I think it's a must for them to get the number 1 seed. Do you agree with that?
I absolutely do, and I love the fact that you said that the Brooklyn doesn't care about that. Because they think nobody's going to beat us 4 times anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it matters to us because, like I said, I want our path to be as easy as possible. Yes, I don't care. I want our path to be as easy as possible, and hopefully, we'll meet up with Brooklyn. We have the number 1 seed. A little bit more fans back in the Wells Fargo Arena. The crowd's going crazy, and let's get it on. Let's lock them down. You're not going to stop Kevin Durant. You're not going to stop him, but they can't stop Joel Embiid either. And we get to the free throw line too. So it's going to be strategy. Doc Rivers will have those guys prepared. We may have the coaching edge, right? Doc Rivers over Nash, right? So,
listen, we don't know if Nash is a great coach. We don't know if Steve Kerr's a great coach, right? Every time LeBron, I always say this. Up until last year, Spo never made it past the second round. Okay, he had David Blatt he carried to the finals. Guy's not even in the league anymore. He had Mike Brown he carried into the finals. Guy's not even in the league anymore. He had Tyronn Lue who couldn't get a job for 4 years after he won a title. So let's not. We don't know if Kerr is a great coach. We don't know if Nash is a great coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of a shame. It's like, wow, is it the coach or is it the player? Like, Phil Jackson is, probably the most decorated coach ever. But my man had MJ, Scotty, and Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And listen,
So
what he did as the general manager of the Knicks was I mean, he ruined the Knicks for like 3 years. I mean, Kevin Knox was the 9th pick. The guy plays 4 minutes a game. Talk about not knowing what the hell's going on. All right,
Mhm.
so what are they doing at the All-Star break? We're talking with Orrie Hicks. Have a couple minutes left here on the Full Monty Sports Show. Are they going to add someone else, or are they standing pat?
I think Morey, I think Morey's going to add something else. Obviously, I think we're going to need a little help with the bench. We got Shake Milton coming off the bench, so he's our guy that can score. Maxey seemed to hit his little rookie wall, so I don't think he's going to be too much in a rotation.
Are you disappointed that he's not playing more?
He hit that wall. I think he just hit the rookie wall. No, I'm
so
not.
So you don't see him being a difference in the playoffs, like a rookie coming in. No, right? Okay.
I mean, he's got here. Here's the second half of the season. He's got another chance. They'll probably give him every opportunity, but when he gets in it, he's got to make the most of it. He's got to make it so bad that like we cannot take this kid off the court. And right now they're saying, yeah, we can take you off the court.
Well, it seems like Doc has a quick trigger with him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he makes a mistake or two, and Doc, like and I get it. Look, you have a ton of veterans there. You have Dwight Howard, you have Danny Green. They're built for the playoffs.
Exactly. And we have Korkmaz coming off the bench, but I don't think he's really going to be effective in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Because is he going to be able to get that 3-point shot off? Even though we need a 3-point shooter and whatnot.
You need we talked about this last time. You think JJ Redick's done? You don't think he hasn't really done it in the playoffs? But they need one more shooter, right?
Yes. They need one more shooter, or then maybe like a stretch 4. Somebody that can do a lot of things and come in there and get some easy baskets or even create their own shots, So I think Morey is going to, create maybe like a stronger bench. If we have to get a starter, I know, the Kyle Lowry rumor, I'll say Kyle Lowry, one of my favorite.
Well, it's interesting. If you pick up Kyle Lowry, is that going to limit your Ben Simmons?
I think
Ben Simmons needs to have the ball.
He does.
And Kyle Lowry can play off. I was thinking along the lines when I just spoke with Jack, get a Harrison Barnes or a Marvin Bagley Jr., who I think, although he's putting up great numbers now, he's been averaging like 19 and 9 for Sacramento. I think they're cleaning house because they're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, those would be great picks too. That was like the biggest rumor that Kyle Lowry, was a possibility and whatnot. Obviously, they would have to give up Danny Green, and they probably have to give up Maxey and some other players to do that. He has championship pedigree, and he's tough. He's a bulldog, and he knows how to win. And you need guys like that in the playoffs that's not scared to take a shot at all.
Listen, 2 years ago in last year in the All-Star game, he was the best player on the court. He was scrapping. He almost got into a fight with Chris Paul. Something happened to him when Kawhi Leonard went there. I know Kawhi's not a leader, but once he won his championship, like you said, Kyle Lowry's tough, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I gotta say he's got that tough Philly swag. That's what that's how he's a tough Philly point guard. So he's grimy, he's gritty, and he's not scared. So but I agree with you. Somebody like a Bagley, like I said, somebody that's a little taller, leaner, stretch 4, somebody like that.
He's wasting away out there in Sacramento.
Yeah. I'm worried about Dwight Howard. That's the only thing I'm worried about, because you need a guy that can play defense and rebound. But, I mean, they drafted him for the playoffs, so I know he's going to be on a roster. But I'm hoping he could just score a little bit more.
Him and JaVale McGee were phenomenal last year for the Lakers. Phenomenal. Rebounding, scoring, toughness. They used all their fouls. They didn't care. They played great. Okay, final question, Orrie. I assume you think they're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Anything less than that, is it a failure of a season?
Absolutely is a failure. Absolutely, because, most of the, at some point when you're, the number 1 seed for the first half of the season, and I'll probably say those probably between 1 and 2, 3 at the worst, by 3/4 of the season. If you don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, then it's a disappointment. I'm not saying you got to win the whole dang on thing, win the championship, anything like that. But you haven't gotten past the semifinal rounds with, this nucleus of this team. They have not gotten past the second round. You have to, you know what I mean? So it's time to go to the next step. I know it's Doc's first year and whatnot, but they're starting out good, and we expect more. We expect this team to get to the conference finals. I think most people in Philadelphia feel that way.
Listen, I just want someone to beat the Nets because I don't want those three guys. I don't want those three guys facing the Lakers. Listen, I hope the Lakers make some moves because I watched every Laker game this year, and that team, it's the same BS as it always is. In the fourth quarter, LeBron's got to guard the best defender, got to rebound, got to make an assist, and he's got to score 20 in the fourth quarter. So I hope the Lakers do something. Orrie, this is so much fun. How can we follow you? How can we support you? Thank you so much for coming on. Love talking NBA with you.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you so much for having me on. You can follow me, Director Orrie, on Instagram. And you can also follow me on the podcast, TKO Podcast Trending with Keisha and Orrie. You can follow us. We got a YouTube channel, and we're anywhere that you can find a podcast. Anchor, Spotify, anywhere you want, you can find us. So that is TKO Podcast Trending with Keisha and Orrie. Go ahead and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Go and subscribe to Spotify, wherever you want to find us. You can definitely find us. If you want to hit me up. But like I said, Director Orrie on Instagram.
Okay, and I'm going to leave you with this because I know. Look at Kevin McHale's shorts. I mean, look at Kevin McHale's shorts. I mean, come on, Kevin. Come on. How much did you hate those Celtics teams growing up?
Hated the Celtics. I'm gonna tell you a funny story real quick. My dad took me and my cousin to a Sixers Celtics game. I want to say it might have been around Easter Sunday or whatnot. It was definitely on a Sunday. And my cousin was a Celtic fan. He's older than me. He's like 6-7 years older than me. And it went down to the wire. Larry Bird hit a jump shot, walk off at the buzzer. He jumped up, started laughing. I started crying. And my dad was like, "Don't worry, son. We'll get him next time."
So Larry Bird made you cry.
He made me cry. Larry Bird's the only man to make me cry.
Well, look,
my father.
Look, pretend you're Dr. J here.
Yes.
That's it. So there you go. All right, thanks so much. Love having you on, man.
I appreciate you having me.
Take care. All right, Orrie Hicks does a tremendous job. I want to thank Orrie Hicks. I want to thank Jack Almier. Definitely follow those guys. And listen, I know a lot of people listen to podcasts. Find this podcast. Find Jack's. If you need information, hit me up on Twitter or on Facebook, and I'll definitely forward that to you. And support the people on this show. And, support them. You support me. So I have them on all the time because they're great guests. I want to thank all you guys for joining the Full Monty Sports Show here live on Nuts and Bolts Sports. Please subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. We will see you on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And in the immortal words of Llewellyn Moss, I shall return. Carla Jean.